The one thing you can't deny about the borough of Brooklyn is the amount of raw talent that has risen from there. In 1994, a new trio was ready to drop their debut album, so the world can view another level of consciousness from Brooklyn's youth. This is the story of urban thermodynamics. The definition of thermodynamics can be used to describe how systems respond to changes in their environment. The definition for urban thermodynamics would be how Brooklyn youths respond to the changes in their environment via a hip hop album. The story of the group Urban Thermodynamics starts with the mighty Mos Def. Now, before Mos Def linked up with Talib Kweli to form the supergroup Black Star, before Mos Def was dropping signs on every Raucous Records feature, before Mos Def made it to the big screen as a Hollywood actor, and then way before he made his comeback, dropping one of the hottest verses on Westside Gunn's Peppa song, Mos Def formed a trio of MCs out of Brooklyn that were set to dominate hip hop. Urban Thermodynamics consists of three core members: DCQ, Cess, and Mos Def. Now, DCQ is Mos Def's younger brother, and Cess was a close high school friend.
Like, let me explain something to you about UTD, man. Urban Thermodynamics, right? My brother laughs at me all the time. He like, yo, D, you crazy. But yo, we are really like, the superheroes of hip hop. And it's like, people really check for us like you know how you felt when you bought the Black Star album?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then they never came out with another album again. Right? It's like, but you know that it's like UTD was like that before Black Star.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
That
Like the
Haley's
music,
Comet.
the music stands the test of time. Like you can play a UTD track today in 2008 and think it's current.
Mm-hmm.
But we did that back in '94. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the blessing. It's like it stands the test of time. So
the one unique characteristic UTD brings to the table is that male and female aspect. Like Diggable Planets and the Fugees, there's two MCs with a female MC. That really brings a really dope dynamic to not only the album, but just to hip hop in general. The crew would sign to Payday Records and start to record their debut album in 1994 called Manifest Destiny. Payday Records around this time were signing a lot of dope independent East Coast acts like the group Home and J. Rue the Damager, to name a few. The production on the album is stellar. They went and got some of the top producers in the game at the time. D.I.T.C's Diamond D in Showbiz, Salaam Remi, The Vibe Chemist, Jay Prinz, YZ, and Jay Swift, who was responsible for producing some of the Far Side's biggest hit records. Cess would explain how they arranged their sound, which was a little different. Cess said that each individual track felt like it was unpredictable because every beat sounded totally different. She also said we're not totally on the jazz sound, not totally on the hardcore sound. We just try to hit a bit of everything. She also would talk about how it was like to work with the producers. She said a lot of companies tend to say, we'll hook you up with this person, they'll give you a beat, you just go do the song, turn it out, and bring it back. What they ended up doing was they got to know each producer on a personal level as well as on a business level. It took a little bit of time but they were able to hang out with the producers, and it felt more organic as they recorded the album.
Video for
Manifest Destiny.
Yep.
Shout out to Diamond D. He laced the track on that, you know.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Legend right there.
And that track was a throwback to his album. Because the Manifest Destiny track
Yep.
was on his album.
The first beat on the album. I remember that.
As an instrumental.
Yep.
I'm sorry, as an interlude.
Yep, that was the
As
first.
a quick interlude. It wasn't even a...
Right
a
before you
song.
went to Best Kept Secret.
Right, it was just a quick interlude. And we was in the studio, we were reviewing tracks and things like that. And Mos was like, yo, what's up with that interlude track you had on that album? And Diamond was like, come on, man, that was an interlude. You don't want to use that. You don't want to recycle that. Mos was like, nah, pull that up. Let's knock that out. And it was on and popping from there, man.
DCQ would have a lot of standout verses on the album Manifest Destiny. On songs like Hardcore Nights, Manifest Destiny, the title track, and Love It, Live It. But Frontline would be a really standout moment for him. Frontline, he would detail life in Brooklyn, almost like life in Brooklyn is a war zone in a sense. On Frontline, but not necessarily being a soldier on the front line, but more of a civilian, and how he had to deal with that warlike atmosphere. He even highlights on the track, my man got no job but $100 kicks on. Sess is the wild card of the group. Sess really commands and demands respect, not only in person but on the microphone. Throughout the album, she uses her microphone as a pulpit to voice her displeasures with society, the dangers of the Brooklyn streets, and the portrayal of female MCs in the industry. She would find her zone on tracks like Frontline, Like That, Worldwide, Hardcore Nights, and the hook for Manifest Destiny. But on Love It, Live It, she would really go in on the portrayal of female MCs in the industry. Sess would really find her flow state on the track Victory, where it's an ode to personal power, to abandon weakness, and to face adversity head on. And it's almost like an answer to what Mos Def would reveal on the first verse of the song. This is definitely one of the top tracks, and just a way for Sess to really show her diversity and how she was able to deliver on a high level on this album. Mos Def explores the complexities of life growing up in Brooklyn, mixed in with the pitfalls, how loneliness and books crafted his personality and imagination, and how Brooklyn shaped him into a no-nonsense, rough exterior if needed, but also delivering a pathway out and wanting to uproot the stigma of growing up in Brooklyn, but ultimately wanting his people to strive for a better tomorrow. Most would have a lot of standout moments. A couple of them would be on tracks like Frontline, Victory, Hardcore Nights, and Moon and Cancer. Most really wanted to not only highlight the life of a Brooklyn teenager, but also what was going on in the hip-hop music industry. He wanted to point out how Run DMC changed their look to almost similar to what Onyx was doing in the early 90s. He also touched on how the music video started to change, similar to what the Roots were do later on with the What They Do music video, highlighting what Bad Boy was doing during their reign. And then he also wanted to tell MCs that it's not all about the gold chain and the dope rhyme. I'm sorry, the dope car. And he also said he didn't want to stoop down to the level of selling 40 ounces like St. Ives was doing with all the rappers that they were doing around the same time. So not only did Mos touch on everything he felt, the struggle with just growing up in Brooklyn around a lot of the chaos, but he also wanted to say that I'm looking at hip hop as well, just like Common was saying when he made I Used to Love Her. He wanted to say something in a similar vein. The album was slated for an early 1994 release, but the album did not officially release on time.
You know, unfortunately at the time, the album never was released because we had asked to get released off of the label that we were signed to at the time. Like the people, the listeners, the hip hop fans really don't know and understand the story behind UTD. We never got dropped. We never had tension with the label. We asked to be released based on the direction that the label was looking to take us in. And we knew that, wait a minute, this is our first introduction to the listener, and there's a certain way we would like to be introduced.
Yeah, nah.
And we really didn't
suits,
understand or care about the politics of the business. You know, most people in this day and time will probably look at us and say, well, damn, why you didn't just go with what the label wanted to do? Whatever they wanted to release first, let them do that, and they get their way, and then you do you from there. But we were so sharp and on point that we rather stand for something than fall for anything. And if it meant losing a record deal, then hey, it's more record deals to come, and that's what it is. It never made us nor broke us. You know what I'm saying?
Artistic integrity.
The good news is the album will finally see its release date, not in the 90s, but in the early 2000s. Urban Thermo Dynamics' debut album Manifest Destiny was released independently in 2004 through DCQ's Ill Sun Media Music Group. The UTD album Manifest Destiny is a hidden hip-hop gem. The lyrics, the rhymes, the production holds up with all the classic albums during the golden era of hip-hop. This just marks another W for the borough of Brooklyn.